Girls of Reddit, what are the most common reasons behind why guys didn't make it past the first date with you? Within the first few minutes, this guy told me that he was living out of his car because his ex-girlfriend was a stalker. Come to find out, his ex was crazy because they were still dating, and while she was at work one day he decided to move all of his stuff out of their apartment unannounced. This day happened to be the same day that we went on a date. What a guy. Too cool for school attitude. We're grown adults on a date. If you ask someone out, whether through an app or live, don't then show up with a bad indifferent attitude. When a guy doesn't really listen to me, like I see his eyes gloss over as he figures out what he is going to say next. As a guy, I was shocked when, at the second date with this one girl, I asked her if she had solved some issue she had told me about the first time around. And she was actually very surprised. Oh. You were listening? Weird and mildly offensive. I had never taken my eyes off of her the whole night. Edit. Jesus crocheting Christ people. Bye. I had never taken my eyes off of her the whole night. I really meant that I only paid attention to her and her words the whole night. Yes. I know that looking at someone does not entail listening. When I can't get a word in, then they ask, "Why are you so quiet? Are you shy?" No. It's because you won't shut the FCK up about yourself and I'm politely waiting my turn to speak. Condescension and bad hygiene. While not common, I have to note that one also tried to guess my cup size over dinner on a first date. Edit. 1. He did not guess correctly. He guessed far too big. 2. I am properly fitted for my bra. As per multiple pro fittings. Pencil test in Portland has been my favorite. He was just either really wrong or making a severely misguided attempt at flattery. 3. Had he guessed correctly, it would still have been creepy for a first date. And I still wouldn't have seen him again. He whipped this guess out before the food even showed up on a blind date. Definitely no. Condescension is such a good one. There is a huge difference between trying to sound manly and trying to make me feel small. Punched the hood of a car when we were crossing the street and starting yelling and cursing at the guy in the car. New Jersey is a crazy place. Sometimes you don't do anything wrong, but there just isn't a physical attraction. I'm an English teacher. He kept calling it How to Kill a Mockingbird. I had a guy once tell me was in court the following week for strangling his ex-girlfriend. He followed up by saying he didn't do it and she was lying, but I still didn't go back for a second date. Explaining things to me that I already know. And when I tell him that, he keeps going like he's doing me a favor. I met a guy during a pickup soccer game. Not wildly competitive. Everyone there knew what they were doing and had definitely played at a higher level before. On the date, we go to a bar and a game is on. So we're chatting and casually watching the game. Offsides flag goes up. And within a second the dude is explaining to me how offsides in soccer works. Dude. I met you at a game. My team beat yours. I was the goalkeeper. I know how that works. Edit. Really digging how people are now mansplaining why he mansplained. Never change. Reddit. Edit 2. For those of you correcting me on offside versus offsides. Probably a regional thing. Every game I've played it's been called offsides. But when watching on TV I hear it as offside. It really doesn't matter. Going 0-100 really quickly. Had one tell me he loved me and I needed to meet his entire family right now, and oh my gosh, they are going to love it. Calm your tits, mate. Pressuring for SX to an obnoxious I don't care what you want degree. It's fine that you want to sleep with me, but hey, there is a person inside this body and they have an opinion too. For what it's worth, I might have had SX with you if you'd been willing to wait a few times so I could get comfortable and not feel steamrolled. I liked you when we first met, but you killed it. Because the penis was introduced too early. It's like, too soon man. Too soon. I'm single and if anything this thread was one hell of a confidence booster. Some of this stuff physically hurt to read. I made a nerdy joke that didn't quite land. He looked at me and said, "That was lame. You're lame. Be funny. Or I'm leaving." Okay. I could tell that all he wanted was sex. We met up across the street from his place. I didn't know this when we met up. It was the middle of the day. We had a beer and then he said he wanted to take me somewhere else for food. But first he asked if it was okay to go across the street to change over his laundry. I agreed. We went up and he changed his laundry and then proceeds to pour us both wine and walks into his bedroom and lays on the bed. I told him I wasn't going into his room. He wouldn't come out of the bedroom. So I left. Not even sure how it came up. But halfway through the meal he starts raging about fudgepuckers. And how gays aren't real men, with biblical references. I didn't even try to cover my disgust. And quickly started scouting out a possible exit strategy. I guess he could sense that I was ready to flee, so he quickly backtracked. Assuring me that don't worry, he's not really religious, and B, he's all for girl on girl action if I was down for that. Oh good. Because that is what worried me about his comments. Left after paying my portion on the bill. Dude stalked me the next few weeks trying to assure me that we had too much chemistry to let this break us up. It was our first and only date. Self-obsessed. Usually. A lot of guys will take you out so that they can talk about themselves, and as soon as you try to contribute, talk over you. For hours. Most of the subject matter is about how effing great they are. If you call them out they get incredibly offended. Well, excuse you. If you didn't want to hear about my first 4 trips to Barcelona, then you should have said something when I was done. No click. Bad manners. Tries too hard to sell himself. I.e. brag. Rude to waiters. Too concerned with scoring. Acts like his career interests are better than mine. 2 recent instances of note. 1. A guy who went on and on about people like us, referring to socioeconomic status, and tried to physically drag me towards his apartment at the end of the date when I said I needed to head home. I don't care if he did it jokingly. He was significantly stronger than me, as he had demonstrated by picking me up several times, and it was not okay. 2. A guy who told me I was required to wear something SI to our sushi date. The date didn't even happen. I cancelled it pretty quick after that ultimatum. Bonus. I really like the guy I'm seeing now. And it all came down to the fact that he treated me like a person instead of a stereotype. He made no assumptions based on my looks or my profession in the arts, and he asked me about my interests instead of informing me of what he thought they were. He asked me about my goals and dreams and cared about the answers. He took me seriously. It may seem basic, but I found this to be incredibly rare. Good luck out there, guys. Honestly, I'm sometimes not feeling it. Sometimes a guy is plenty attractive, nice, fun, clean, whatever, but I'm just not feeling a connection. It sucks and I hate rejecting guys for this reason. But I've tried forcing it, hoping eventually I'll feel it, and it never works. As a guy, I had a wonderful date with a wonderful girl and I thought I hit a home run. We get to the end of the date and she basically told me that she wasn't feeling it with me. I was so sad. For a second. Then I thanked her. Sincerely thanked her. She wasn't rude to me. Or about it. And she didn't want to waste her time or mine. We actually became friends. Seriously. Honesty is always good. Then again, I can see some weird dude not taking that as an answer. Tried to give me a key to his house. We went on one date. Talking about previous conquests. How his parents bought him a $15K camera to get his photography business off the ground. Sent me dick pics the next day and asked me to reciprocate. Shudder, he basically talked about himself the whole date. Him being hot and talented was just so overshadowed by his complete lack of character. Why didn't you send him back some dick pictures? He told me a dirty joke that wasn't even funny. When I didn't laugh. He said the fault was with my sense of humor. He thought it was NBD to have unprotected sex, in general. But also on the first date. 1 minute we were hanging out. Then he kissed me. Then all of a sudden his dick was out. I refused. Then he asked for a blowjob. I don't think so. Pal. Stroke. Edit. Talk non-stop without giving me a break to jump in and talk. 2. Then said not to interrupt him. More guys than I would have thought. One standout was a creepy if you're going to be my girlfriend you need to do X and Y and Z power trip. Specifically, he was upset that I didn't have a current driver's license, I lived downtown, and public transit was fine for my needs. He was already a friend, and had a habit of trying to push me to change who I was, but didn't seem to feel that he needed any improvement himself. Being rude to the server, but nice to me. Talking over me, or explaining something to me of which I am knowledgeable. For instance, went on a date with a guy who proceeded to explain the focus of my college major to me. I couldn't get a word in edgewise, so I faked a headache and ducked out. Cockiness and being condescending. The last guy I went on a date with was like, I don't like many people, so take it as a compliment that I took you out for dinner today. Been ignoring his messages and calls for the last 3 months. If a guy tries to debate me into dating him, when I politely decline another date, that's not your clue to ask for a reason and then argue debate logic me into seeing you again or going home with you. Being ready to talk about himself all the time, but whenever I say anything he either glosses it over or turns it right back into talking about himself. BTW not a girl. Another guy. First date was fine. Yeah. Feedback from my female friends. Guy doesn't make decisions. Has the I don't care whatever you want attitude when it comes to picking locations, movie, travel plans for a date. Guy is unkempt. Didn't shower. Bad breath. Whatever. Guy lied on his online profile, if that's how the date was set up. Biggest offenders here are height, weight, income. That order. OMG, height was just getting hysterical when I was online dating. I think I went out with every single 5'2" - 5'4" guy in Boston that was lying about being 5'6". Them being short actually didn't bother me, but the obvious lying did. This is a personal thing, but when a guy is weird about me paying for at least half my share, if not more, if it's just a good I've got this, I asked you therefore I should pay or whatever, that's fine and sweet. But if a guy really can't deal with the thought of me being financially independent, we've got problems. Being a terrible kisser. Like not just slightly bad but actively awful. Like kissing a lizard. Talking about having a serious relationship and trying to plan a holiday for the summer. Like, we just met. You're creepily into me. I'm not up for it. In general, seeming really overinvested on the first date is a bad sign. Being way too clingy. Texting me non-stop. We were supposed to be on a date making cookies together. If I put in all the work, you barely speak to me the whole time as I get more cookie compliments from your roommates than you. Not good. And then you compound it by falling asleep on the couch when we're supposed to watch a movie. And I'm sitting on the floor because there's only one couch and we aren't to the cuddling stage. He pissed in my yard before we went in my house and didn't wash his hands. I was dying when he shook my mother's hand. After that, he still didn't excuse himself to wash up and had the nerve to offer me a piece of gum. Man, this thread makes me feel f***ing great about my date skills IA. They usually didn't look like their profile picture or it came out that they didn't have a job. I realized I'm not straight about 5 minutes into my first and only date. Asking me what size my boobs are or using well. Actually to talk about something when I clearly know what I'm talking about. Invasion of personal space. At least that was my last encounter. Think close talker like. He's not touching me or anything but uncomfortably close. Also, not sure if it counts but the constant texting thing, which would be sorta okay. But when he gets irritated at me when I don't respond back within 5 minutes. Sheesh. As an Asian girl, if a guy tells me he's had Asian girlfriends in the past or is into Asian culture, kept talking about the rules and how I was violating them, like topics of conversation, letting him open a door, what time I scheduled the date, WTF are these rules? Could not see myself being with him. He was a good, funny guy and we shared common interests. I did like him, but even if I really wanted to be him, his family was enough to put me off. I'm sure they were lovely people in their own way, but they were traditional Chinese, with the mother being the submissive homemaker and his father the family boss who everyone deferred to. Even at that time the guy was working at his father's business and he openly stated that his family expectation is that in the end he will have to support them and live with them. Nope. He found himself a nice Chinese girl a few years later. They are engaged and I hope he and his family are happy. Guy spoke in a Scooby-Doo voice the entire date. Rah rah. Maybe I'm the odd one out, but touchiness. I'm not very affectionate even among family. I do my best to make this known, but sometimes they just ignore it or think a smaller version is permissible. Okay. She doesn't like holding hands, so how about a hug instead? If I'm given space and time, I can learn to reciprocate, but on a first date nothing will turn me off faster. I really have to have time to get to know the other person. I was iffy about him before the date, but went through with it. Then he wore cute off jorts. The only reason, I already knew I wasn't attracted to them. So why did I go out with them on a first date? Because for a brief time in college, I thought it was a good idea to give them a chance because maybe I would enjoy their company. So when guys who were already showing interest asked me to grab lunch or go out, I said okay. I honestly did like them as friends and I did enjoy their company, but I wasn't attracted to them. So when they asked to meet up again, I would push it off. I've only had 2 boyfriends, and for them, I knew I liked them before we even went out. Lack of genuine conversation. Every date will have the general questions of, what do you do for work? Comma. Any pets? Comma. What do you do for fun? Full stop. But I like to share fun stories, really laugh, and get to know the person's life some. Like I really need to feel like this person is human and I can connect to them. Also, lack of energy is an issue. I get it can be hard, especially if you've had failed date after failed date. But you can't go in like I already rejected you. Looks are very low on the importance scale to me. The best way to fail is if I don't like how you smell. Some guys are totally unaware of toothpaste or taking your clothes out of the washer in a timely manner. Shoe smell etc. The second way to fail with me is if I don't feel like I can talk to them comfortably. I have tried every dating app, site, event, and I have had some dates from hell. Honestly, the most common reason is that we just didn't click, didn't really have in common when it came down it. That's something that's difficult to explain or quantify. Here are 2 specific cases though. Spends more time playing on his phone than talking to me. Brags a ton about himself, especially while not asking about me. If someone is very conservative and into traditional gender roles, we probably won't get along. That usually comes out well before a first date though. Anyone who refers to a 20-something or older woman as a girl isn't likely to make it to past a first date with me either. Personal pet peeve, until he also calls men boys. Guy didn't tell me where we were going. Said it was gonna be a surprise. This surprise was him taking me to church, then telling me that he cares about me and wants me to convert to Christianity so we are guaranteed to go to heaven together. I felt like I had to coax conversation out of him. Via text he was great, but almost like a completely different person when we met up. He also wasn't very funny, and I could not imagine myself in a relationship with someone who couldn't make me laugh. Edit. Probably social anxiety. Honestly, the worst offense for me is when they snatch a door out of my hand. Usually a guy will stand super close behind me. Wait until I have the door mostly open and then jar it back. Seems helpful. But my hand gets bent weird. I don't mind men opening doors, but too many just end up shoving me through them. This is why half the time I'd, female, no longer single, open the door for my dates, male. They open the door for me the first time? Great. You've shown your father taught you manners. But I'm getting the next one. Motioning them to walk ahead and bowing. No. Please. After you. Boys get all bashful and confused. Oh. Thank you. Then shuffle in with their heads down. Adorable. Pat's head. Edit.